What up, y'all? It's Bitcoin George. It is Monday, June 27th. We are wrapping up the last fiscal week in the second quarter of 2022. What's going on in the world today? Markets are finally turning red after right here, stocks fall, reversing course after last week's 6% advance. So, um, 2 weeks ago, the Federal Reserve had their meeting, and they came out and they did a 75-point basis hike, and that came out on I think on a Wednesday, and the week closed red. No, I think that came out on a Thursday, and over the weekend there was a lot of fear and panic in the market about what's going to happen, and then come Monday, stocks were all green. It was very peculiar, actually. A lot of people were kind of confused, and I think that is a deliberate measure by these market makers, market manipulators. The plunge protection team probably had something to do with that. If you don't know about the plunge protection team, then just Google it, the PPT. But I think what's going on right now, and why we had a green week last week after horrible news, as far as not horrible news, but as far as the market goes, 75-point basis hike literally doubled what the federal funds rate was. We went from like 0.8% to 1.75%, and the first going from 0 to 0.8 was in two separate rate hikes over the course of like 4 months. We just basically we doubled the federal funds rate overnight with a 0.75% rate hike, and I think that's going to increase the volatility and the velocity at which this market moves. And currently, it's trending in a downward trajectory. So I think we're going to see much steeper decline in equity prices in the next 3 months. We didn't get the exact knee-jerk reaction we wanted, or I wanted. I'm pretty short on the stock market right now, and it didn't go red last week after they released the hike, the news of the rate hike, and a lot of people were confused. But I think it's going to start happening this week, and maybe that's just because things take time. The markets don't respond immediately. You know, you would think they do in the digital world we live in, where everything happens so fast, but they don't. But I think what is going on in the markets right now is retail is still hopeful that we're not in a bear market or we're not in a recession. A lot of people have seen their 401k decrease by 20, 25, 30% in the last 6 months, and they're anticipating that all it is something like this. You know, market pulls back 20, 30% and then kicks back up again, pulls back, kicks back up again. I think that is what the retail investor is hoping for, and you're not seeing a lot of selling in the market, which is good. You see people with the strong hands not being shaken. You know, that's the right thing to do. But unfortunately, I don't think we're anywhere near the bottom on the equity markets. We hit the top in the S&P way over here back in December of 21, and here we are 6.5 months later, and we've lost, I mean, maybe like a fourth of this whole run up from 2009 to 2021. We had a 12-year just insane bull run where S&P was trading at $800, finished at just under 5,000. So that's a 5-6x, and we've lost one of those right now. But what I don't think people are really taking into consideration right now is from the top to where we're at right now, that's December 21. Now we're in June of 2022. That's 6 months, okay? The last time we had a major correction in the stock market, you can either go back to 2000 or you can go back to '07, and from top to bottom, okay, 2000, July of 2000, bottom is in, you could say July of '02. So July to July, but it's 2 years, guys. These markets do not move right away, and for good measure, if the market dropped, 50% in 6 months, it would be absolute chaos. And the government, frankly, is doing a good job on that side of still keeping food on the table. There still is opportunity to work, but we are nowhere. This is my opinion: is that we are nowhere near to the bottom of this thing. Just because, I mean, even if you come over here and you look at the '07 crash, top was in October of 2007. Stock market didn't bottom till March of '09, so that's about 16 months or so, a little over a year and a half right there. So once we started to correct pretty sharp back here, because we can get rid of this stuff. Once we started to correct over here, because the Federal Reserve started to do some rate hikes and also the quantitative tightening instead of easing, the market is responding to that. It no longer can stay artificially propped up, and you're seeing this large pullback right here. And I anticipate to get somewhere down around here. That's probably a modest prediction right here. I think this thing's got another 20 to 30% down in the next 6 months. By December, it's going to be full-on bear market recession. I'm not going to put any numbers on it because I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can tell you guys is that I do think that Bitcoin will bottom first before the stock market, just because Bitcoin is a much more transparent asset. You see these crazy volatility, price swings, and from top to bottom in this cycle, less than a year, we went from 20K in December of 17 to 3K in December of 18. That's an 85%, 90% pullback in less than a year. And here we are, November of 21 to where we are today, the 30th of, November to June, we're 7 months, and we're already pulled back 60%. Bitcoin, it just moves much faster. So when you see Bitcoin start to form a really solid bottom over the more than probably 2 months, I think that's a good indicator that Bitcoin is at the bottom. But because Bitcoin is not tied to a lot of people's retirement fund, pension funds, the government doesn't care if the bottom falls out on this thing, because nobody's going to go hungry because Bitcoin. Individuals may go broke over this, but if the stock market were to do an 80% pullback and come back down to 80% of 5,000 would be 1,000. You're talking the stock market coming back to basically where it was right in the '09 housing crash. You literally will have hysteria. To see it ever get this low probably never happen. But so what I'm saying is that the stock market is much more propped up. There's a lot more fail-safe measures that the government can use to keep this propped up. And I don't think you'll see an 80% pullback, but you might see a 50%. We might see it come down right around here. Um, right around, I don't know. I'm not a super technical guy. But what I can tell you is that the stock market is going to respond much slower. And unless the Federal Reserve really kicks the interest rate up and just lets this baby slam and lets, it's like a Band-Aid. You can rip it off nice and slow and it might not hurt that bad, but it just hurts a little bit for a long time. That's what they're doing right now. With these little itty bitty, they've done 3 rate hikes and we're not even at 2% yet. And they're just slowly ripping off the Band-Aid versus if they would just bump up the federal funds rate to like 5%, then 10%, yeah, it would cause a lot of volatility in the market and chaos, but I guarantee you people will stop behaving like reckless individuals with their money. People will not be out buying $500,000, $1 million houses when they only make $80,000 to $100,000 a year, driving a $50,000 car with $300K in student loan. The reason why people run up crazy debt is because there is not a lot of harsh consequence in this country for being in debt. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but nobody goes to jail for being in debt. Most people, if shit hits the fan for you too bad, you file bankruptcy and you get to start over from scratch. Donald Trump did it. Um, Anybody can file for bankruptcy and all your debt is forgiven. Like, in what world do we live in where that's okay? Where you can just be reckless with your behavior, financially immature and irresponsible, and then just all of a sudden one day your debt is forgiven. And yeah, you got 7 years of, I don't know what the rules are. You got a scarlet letter basically for 7 years. But it just seems crazy to me that there's no accountability in the system that we live in. And if the federal funds or if the Federal Reserve wanted people to start acting responsible, they would do that, but they don't. They want to create an inflationary environment. They want inflation to run. There's a reason why they're letting it get out of control right now, because they don't care. It doesn't matter to them what inflation is. The only thing that matters to the Federal Reserve is that the U.S. dollar remains the reserve currency of the world, and they're doing a pretty poor job of that right now. I mean, they just cut off gold purchases from Russia, acting like Russia needs to sell gold to the rest of the world in order to survive. It's ridiculous what they do. I don't want to get into politics too much, but this is what's going on in the world right now. I've done enough ranting, guys. So what should we do? This is my advice. What should we do? First and foremost, pay off any debt that you have. Guys, I cannot promote that enough. Being debt-free opens up so many opportunities for you because you no longer have to listen to Peter or Paul or John or whoever it is that says you owe them X and you can't leave and you can't borrow more money and you can't do this or that until you pay off that debt. Recently, I started my own business, and a big reason as to why I was able to get off the ground and running in under 12 months with that business where it's actually profiting is because I didn't have any debt, didn't have no dead weight holding me back. Instead of paying off previous debt that I had acquired, I was able to just funnel all the money that I have into getting this business up off the ground and running. And now I have an asset that produces cash flow and allows me to live and purchase things that I need and also fund my hobbies as well as fund my retirement. Other thing you should do is increase your income. And whether that means getting a new job, quitting your job you're at and finding a new one, whether that means picking up a second job, whether it's full-time or part-time, you can do a lot of contract work right now. You can, the easy stuff, Uber Eats, DoorDash, all the delivery services, I don't know how profitable they are right now with gasoline being very expensive, but there's other stuff that you can do. There's a bunch of. I'm a tradesman. I work in the trades. I never went to college. Well, I went to college, but I'd never finished. I'm a college dropout. Yep, I said it. I also probably make more money than most college graduates that come out with a 4-year degree. So, who's the real winner? Um, but right now, there's a ton of demand for skilled labor, and it doesn't even have to be blue collar guys. Like the big reason why I think blue collar trades are suffering right now is because nobody wants to do hard work, which I totally understand it. I don't agree with it, but I understand. Like I do blue collar work, and it sucks. There are some days when it just flat out sucks, but I still do it because it pays my living. I'm debt free. I don't owe anybody money. I didn't borrow 80 or 100 grand to go to college. Um, so you can get into blue collar, but you can go and take a 6-month coding online boot camp course, and you can get a job making $50,000-$60,000 a year. Or you could take an online graphic design course, and you could be a freelance um, marketing designer for um, a company that makes computers or whatever it is that you want to do. But there's so much demand for contract labor in the virtual world right now, um, that you don't have to become a blue collar worker in order to have one of these like blue collar style jobs. There's a new wave of blue collar tech coming out that is people who go to trade schools, they learn a skill, and then they go immediately into the workforce, and it's a streamlined process. It takes like 12 months start to finish, and you can get hired right away, and you can start making starting salary of $60,000-$50,000 a year, and then probably in 2 or 3 years you can easily be making 6 figures. um, it's limitless at that point. You could start your own business if you want to. um, so Step one, pay off debt. Step two, increase income. Those two can be reversible because sometimes increasing your income will help you pay off debt. So maybe you need to increase your income before you pay off your debt. But either way, you need to do those two. Um, what you can do in the immediate short term, and this is what my boy Jerry, Bitcoin, not Bitcoin Jerry. This is Jerry loves decentralized assets and freedom. I will link his profile in the description to this YouTube video. But keep your powder dry. Right now, people are starting to feel the effects of inflation for the first time in their wallets and their bank accounts, and people's spending habits are starting to change. People's psychology about how they spend their money is changing because people are more aware of the fact that maybe for the last 2 years they had 5 digits in their bank account, but now they only have four, or maybe three. Whatever it is, people are starting to get more conscious of their spending habits, and also people are making irrational decisions um, because they are afraid of either going into debt or not paying off their debt, and or paying off everyday living expenses. People got to pay rent. People got credit cards to pay. People got student loans to pay. So you're going to start to see a lot of deals coming up. I think right now, like if you like high tech stuff, right now is a great time to buy high tech stuff. Um, you can buy a nice computer right now. You can buy cameras, all this high tech stuff that is it's depreciates very fast. People are starting to sell it. If you look on Facebook Marketplace, there's a lot of deals right now on PCs because people either overpaid for them in the crazy hype of the scamdemic, um, and now they're strapped for cash, and so the low hanging fruit to get 500 or $1,000 is, let me just sell this computer that I paid $2,000 for a year ago, because I don't really use it anymore anyways. So like a lot of deals like that are going on, but I think you're going to start to see a lot more cars come up on the market, a lot more like hobby type motor stuff like campers, like RVs. A lot of that stuff got super popular. Basically, anything that had crazy appreciation and popularity and price during COVID, whether it's aviation, camping, skiing, hiking, all the stuff that all these people went out and did during the pandemic because they were getting stimulus checks and they wanted to go try that new hobby that they'd never done before because they didn't have the money and the time for it. But then the government sent out $2,000, $3,000 stimulus checks, child care credits, all this and that, and then you combine that with people working from home, and all of a sudden Joe Schmo, who had a lifelong dream to live on the road, and went out and bought a $80,000 Mercedes Sprinter camper van because this is what he does now. That's his new identity. He's a nomad. He lives on the road and he works on the road. And he spent 80 grand on this fully loaded RV. Well, now guess what? Tesla is saying if you work remote, you better get your butt back in Texas because we're not doing remote work anymore. And a lot of these companies are going to start recalling all these employees back to the workplace because productivity is massively down. And if we're not producing stuff, the economy is not growing and you're not making money. And as a business owner, if you're not making money, that's not good. So what are you going to do to increase your productivity? You're going to stop letting people work from home unless they can prove their productivity. So now Joe Schmo has his $80,000 camper that he bought with 0% down, 0% financing for 96 months, and he's got $1,000, $1,500 car note bill every month for a camper that sits in his driveway year round. Oh, and by the way, so does like 20, 30,000 other people in just in his state in a 100-mile radius. There's so many people who did this and so many people who went out and bought all these campers. All of a sudden you have all this inventory on the market, and now this super rare, hard to acquire item that Joe Schmo had, a $80,000 livable RV camper that you couldn't buy unless you paid 20-30% over face value for a year or 2 years ago. Now you can go on Facebook Marketplace or to every RV dealer in a 50-mile radius, and they've got 10 of them. And all of a sudden, supply and demand takes over, and the price of that camper every week it sits on that lot and on that virtual marketplace listing goes down 2% because there's so much competition and everybody starts to undercut themselves on the price. So keep your powder dry, guys. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff for sale right now, as well as equities and stuff like that. And then the last thing I would say is stay prepared. Stock up on at least, at minimum, you should have enough food for you to last for 2 weeks in your house. Because we all saw what happened the first week when COVID locked down. The shelves at the store were bone dry. And until the next shipment of the trucks came in, we didn't get no more food. So, heaven forbid that something like that happen, but just stock up on some essential items: food, water, medical items. So like if you need some ibuprofen or some allergy medicine, or if there's something that that you take every day that you absolutely need, make sure you have that. Um, what else is good? It might not be a bad idea to go buy a jerry can and fill it up with gasoline and just store it in your garage. You never know when it's going to come in handy. And propane is good. Go buy an extra can of propane. Stuff like that you never know when you're going to need, but when you need it, you're going to be really glad that you do have it. So stock up on that stuff, that actual physical stuff that we use every day, day to day, and that's how you can best thrive in this current crazy time that we live in. Uh, it's just a weird time we're living through, and there's not a whole lot that us as individuals can do to prevent it, but we can be prepared, and it can make this experience much more enjoyable, um, than versus being, one of the sheeple, just bah all the time, just worried about picking up some grass that's right in front of my face. Give me more grass. Oh, I'm a fat sheep. I just want to keep eating all this grass right here in front of me. And all of a sudden, the pasture lights on fire, and you haven't even looked around to see how the hell you're going to get out of the pasture, because there's a gate all the way around you, and you've been spending your whole life with your head down, just consuming, 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 never preparing, never looking around, never checking your surroundings, and you're in panic mode like everyone else. So just do your best to be prepared, guys. Yeah, that's about all I got. And we will talk soon. Sorry about the long video and the long rant. Um, I haven't been on a while, and I thought I've been wanting to get back on, and I think this was a good one today. So if you watch this far, give me a Ric Flair woo in the comment. All right, Bitcoin George is out.